This right here is us. And I know in the back it might be hard to see, but I have in my hand just a little piece of a puzzle. It's actually a part of a 300-piece puzzle, the rest of which is sitting up in my office right now. It's a beautiful picture, an older picture of Cuba. And I bought this puzzle and it looked really cool. And I said, I want to find the most random piece from that puzzle. Because I think there's something we can learn from this. You see, this puzzle piece, when we first look at it, based upon everything else we understand about form and shape, this puzzle piece is incredibly random and imperfect. You see, you and I, we like order, we like symmetry, we like straight lines, we like shapes that make sense to us. It's why we have squares and rectangles and circles and triangles, because there's a symmetry to them, and those things make sense. There's almost a perfection to the way that they're created. But if I were to describe this puzzle piece to you, it's incredibly imperfect. It doesn't fit inside of a box of the way that we normally think of shape. And so it's imperfect, and it appears, if I didn't know anything at all about puzzles, it would appear to be incredibly random. There's no order to it. There's no symmetry to it. I can't even really tell from this puzzle piece which side is up and which side is down. It also would appear to be really insignificant. Again, it's one piece of a 300-piece puzzle. So even in this puzzle, it's only 1/300th worth of value of the entire puzzle. And so because of that, it seems to have an imperfection to it, and it seems to have an insignificance to it, which is often how you and I have a tendency in just the way that we live our life. If we thought about it in crisp terms, we would think, well, yeah, I know my life has significance, but the way that we live is, well, my life is incredibly imperfect, it's a little bit random, and it also has this insignificance to it. But here's the thing that we know about pieces of puzzle, because when we talk about its insignificance, we think this piece of any of them, I looked through the whole 300 pieces to find one that was maybe most insignificant. See, for you and I, at least how I learned to put together puzzles, is there's 4 pieces of the puzzle that are most important. What are they? The corners. We begin putting together puzzles by finding the corners, because there's only 4 of them. And if I can look at the puzzle, I can figure out, okay, this corner is bottom right, and this corner is bottom left, and top right, then I can begin to put together the puzzle. What's the next most important piece of the puzzle? The border. Because once I get the border, I can begin to build the puzzle. This piece of the puzzle is not a corner, nor does it have a flat line that shows that it's a border. It's not really all that significant in terms of how puzzles function. It also, I picked out a piece of the puzzle because the next thing we look for is markings that we can at least look at this. If there's pieces of the puzzle that have words on it, I can look at the box and figure out where it fits. This has none of those things. So you look at that and say, well, that's a really insignificant piece of the puzzle. In fact, if I was putting together a puzzle, there's a chance that this might be the last piece of the puzzle that I fit in. But because we've built puzzles before, we know that there's a strange satisfaction of when you put a puzzle piece in and it fits perfectly. Now, we've done this before where we look at a hole on a piece of the puzzle and we think, well, it looks like this piece might fit in that hole. It looks like it's going to fit. And we start to put it in there and it doesn't snap in like puzzles are supposed to fit in. And you and I look at it, we say, well, it looks like it's going to fit and it's not fitting. And so we try to force it in. Like you've done this before, right? I'm not the only one. You try to push it in and you're trying to force it in. And you finally leave it. You're like, all right, it fits. And deep down inside, you're like, it doesn't fit. Like, I know it doesn't fit. There's another piece. And we finally find the piece that does fit. We take that out and we put it in. And there's a strange satisfaction about when a piece of the puzzle fits in like it's supposed to. You're like, yeah, that's how things are supposed to be. So, this puzzle piece was cut out perfectly. Even though I look at it and by itself, it doesn't seem to have symmetry to it. This puzzle piece was cut out perfectly to fit into some spot in the puzzle that only it can fit. And this puzzle piece, for the person putting together the puzzle, has incredible value. Because if I began to put together that picture of Cuba, and I put together 299 pieces, and this piece right here was missing, I would search under the box and under the table thinking, I must have dropped this someplace. Because the puzzle's not done until this piece goes in. I could have 299 pieces together, and I could have lost that final piece, and I might say, listen, I might never find it, and as far as I could go, the puzzle was done, but the puzzle's not done until that final piece fits. And so for the person putting together the puzzle, this piece that seems to have no significance has incredible significance. The value of your story is only understood in the picture of the greater story. See, forget puzzles for a second. God is a master puzzle maker. He's putting this whole thing together. And so because of that, we look at our lives and we think, well, maybe I'm not doing anything incredibly huge. Maybe I'm not down in the Dominican Republic fighting human trafficking. Maybe I'm not doing those things that I look at people and they're reaching millions of people for Jesus. And I look at that and say, well, my story compared to their story, my story doesn't seem to have nearly as much significance. Not because you and I are powerful or important, but because God and Jesus is weaving together our story. Our story is perfect for who we are created to be. And our story is incredibly valuable.